Like you said, we are continuing our series on Honor Flight Nevada, September 2014. Now, this past weekend, 30 of Nevada's heroes traveled to Washington, D.C. for an all-expenses-paid trip to see the monuments and memorials built just for them. Tonight, we introduce you to a man who not only was on the trip this past weekend, but helps many come along for the ride. One round-trip flight, 3 nights of hotel fares, 9 meals, and every possible tour crunched into 2 days. For these veterans, the trip is free, but the money still has to come from somewhere.
Not only do they help raise money, they've raised just about enough to pay for the entire trip, but they're out in the community, they're ambassadors for us.
Among the red shirts, the honored veterans selected for the trip, you'll find a man who's not only a part of the group, but the reason many of his colleagues are here in the first place.
We are having our second annual summer barbecue. It's a chance for the vets to get together without worrying about appointments or anything.
Marine Frank Greenwood is the commander of Disabled American Veterans Reno, Chapter 1.
And just be amongst friends, people who understand us.
In August, Greenwood and the group donated $10,000 to Honor Flight Nevada. This check pays the way for 10 veterans. A huge dent for an organization 100% run on donations, grants, and fundraising.
100% of the money goes right to the veterans. There's no paid positions, there's no overhead, so it's groups like that, bring it forward, pay it forward, and make it happen.
Greenwood says the average veteran doesn't make it to D.C. He hopes his donations complete bucket lists across Nevada.
The last chapter never gets written. This trip and that $10,000 is wrote the last chapter for all 55 of these veterans here.
But Frank isn't necessarily anxious to write the last chapter of his own book. Honor Flight Nevada founder John Yespa has offered Greenwood a ticket before.
He's a veteran himself. He's a Vietnam combat veteran in the Marine Corps. And for everything he's done, we want him to see and be able to report back to the community, to the DAV, to all the other veterans, personally what the trip's about.
After declining several times, Greenwood has finally accepted.
We just kind of, almost dared him, bet that he wouldn't go. He was reluctant, saying he was afraid to fly, and he was scared, and, everything a Marine wouldn't admit to. We just had to use that against him.
I did. I'm so glad I came. I told Gunny and I told John, I said, I need to kick myself in the butt for not coming.
And once Frank found his cousin on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, the trip hit home. Freddie Ray Cox, killed, first day in country, at 19 years old.
5 minutes into it, he was hooked. He's got a whole new family now, and you can see it in his eye. He's already sharing the stories, and he already gets it. He's part of it.
I wish every American would have an opportunity to spend 3 days in an environment like this, to be able to share the emotions, the stories, and the joy that camaraderie really brings to each and every one of us.
Now, I lost it, broke down twice on the trip, admittedly, and when Frank found his cousin's name on that wall, that was the second time. Now, he had no idea we were doing the story on him, so Frank, if you're watching, sorry we sandbagged you, but I'm happy to call you a friend for life. Our series continues tomorrow on News 4 at 5 and 11. We'll introduce you to some veterans who were joined by their children and how the kids heard stories from mom and dad they've never heard before.